So many of our Talmidim, if we called them into the room and said, "Are you learning Gemara?" "Yeah." "What's Gemara?" I don't know. And, well, okay, so what's the big deal? I don't know what Gemara is. Well, that speaks to motivation. If a kid doesn't understand what is Gemara, what separates it, what's unique about it, then he very likely has difficulty with how it works and what its purpose is. And then there's going to be a lack of motivation. Teach the kids the historical background of the Gemara, meaning, how did it come to be? What is it b'mitzius? What is this thing called Gemara? Right? Is it another sefer in Chumash? Right? What is it? How does it compare to the other things I know? Then you want to teach the conceptual background of Gemara. How Gemara works, what are the mechanics? Right? So here's a sample lesson. This is lesson 6 of Introduction to Gemara. Start laying the groundwork before you started so they have an understanding of what they're about to get into. This top paragraph, I'll read it out loud. David asked his brother Chaim, "Do you know what mommy is making for supper?" Chaim answered, "We're having hamburgers. I know this because I saw mommy take some ground beef out of the freezer this morning." "Well," responded David, "that doesn't mean anything. Maybe we'll be having meatballs." Chaim ended all doubt when he said, "That's true, but she also went to the store and bought hamburger buns." And then we take that paragraph, that debate, that argument, that discussion, and say, okay, how many pieces of this discussion can you find? And we come out with 5. There was a she'ela, a question asking for information. What are we having for supper? A teretz, or a tshuva, a response to that question. Right? We're having hamburgers. But then there was a raya. I know that we're having hamburgers because the ground beef came out of the freezer. But then there was a dechia. Your raya is not really a raya because ground beef could be used for something else. And then, of course, there was a final raya. I saw the hamburger buns. Right? And just teach it to the kid. And it's very non-threatening. And you say, that's how Gemara is going to work. You're going to teach them the background of Gemara. Take a minute, an hour, whatever it is. Teach them how to find the right daf and the right amud. You're going to be surprised if you took a survey of 7th or 8th graders, or any kids who've been learning Gemara for 2-3 years. You're going to find in every class a few boys who are not really sure how to turn to daf mem vav amud beis. The Gemara milim that we're going to learn are always going to be from the Gemara you're going to have in the next couple of days. So by the time you get to a new word in Gemara, a new common Gemara word, this was your Gemara vocabulary word from 2-3 days ago. When the kids get to that Gemara and they're trying to understand the Gemara, this new word is not something that they're also trying to do at the same time. When a kid gets a list of 20 Gemara milim, it's a nightmare. Right? The best way that I've found, you teach 2 words at a time. Don't forget those words that aren't really in the Gemara, but shakla v'tarya. Okay, Rabbi, say chazer over the shakla v'tarya. Do you think there are any kids who are 2 years into Gemara and still don't really know what shakla v'tarya means? You think so? Yeah. Teach shakla v'tarya, right? You're going to talk about a sugya, new sugya, this sugya. Spend a minute. One of your 100 Gemara milim, or however many words you're going to do, should be the word sugya, right? It's so pashut. Of course, everybody knows what a sugya, but not everybody does. This goes up on the board. I say, boys, you know what to do. And immediately they're running to get their vocabulary words, and they're the boxes, and this is going to be on the blank side, this is going to be on the line side, and they write it, and then right away they're testing each other. Now, some of the boys like to work themselves. So you have the flashcards, they can test themselves. I'm looking at the Hebrew, or the Aramaic, whatever language the word may be, and then I say it, I flip it over. Some kids like to, and some kids will make games with each other. And one boy will ask the word, and there's 2 boys standing on each side of the desk, and whoever banks first gets to answer. They'll all be creative, they'll all do it in their own way, and then these boys are in the corner making up songs about the words, right? A lot of Rabbi like to make songs. And that's great. I let the boys do it, and they make chants, and they make songs, and they all do it in whatever creative, happy way they do. And at 7 minutes in the beginning of the day, they master these 100 words, they have them in their pocket. If I would print them out and give it to them, it'd be gone. But these were handmade. These are my key. This is my hatzlacha, right? Their cards are precious, and they have their own boxes with their names on it, and they really take the time to write it meticulously. It's important to them. So I can't remember, in the 10 years I'm doing this, I can't remember how many times a boy lost his flashcards. But if they would, they would rewrite it. You know? And sometimes, I'll tell you, after the first 20 cards, this happens to me every couple of years. I have 1 or 2 boys who do this. Rabbi, I'm not so happy with it. I want to write my cards more neatly. And on their own, they'll just rewrite them anyway. The cards are precious to them. I mean, this is, you know, Kosvin Maluach Libecha. This is mamish, you know, they love their cards. On the last day of the year, I take a Bav Mitzvah off my shelf, and I open up to the first Amud of Eila Mitzias. And I say, boys, I am going to do nothing but read the words that you're going to start next year. Every time we come to a word that you can touch, raise your hand. And it's an amazing thing. Every line, there's 2 or 3 words. You guys already know a third of the first Amud you're going to learn next year. And that's an incredible feeling, right? There are no natural divisions like Psukim and Mishnayos. So it is up to us to divide the Gemara into shiurim and lessons. Let me show you what I mean. This is only the bottom half of the Amud. But you're taking a 5th grader or a 6th grader, and you're saying, okay, this is what we're learning now. And this is what he's looking at. It's dizzying. What are we learning? Where are we learning? It's line 17, or the 4th medium-sized line, the 2nd word. And he's counting down, and some of us make the kids number the lines in the margin. Okay, this is where we're holding. And of course, his attention wanders for 2 minutes, and now he doesn't have the place. So now, he's got to refine the place on this Amud. Right? And if you're not used to it, and you can't quickly scan the words, it's dizzying, it's incredibly difficult. And this is something we may not give enough chashivas to. But an Amud of Gemara is so complex. Besides the fact that you have Rashi, you have Tosafos, Shas, Torah, or there's so much going on the page, and then you have all these different sized lines. L'man Hashem, most kids, how are they going to keep the place? Compare that to this. If a kid is coming in the beginning of the day, and Rebbe has this on the board. Rabbi say, today we're learning Shir Tes Zayin. So first of all, there's a unit. There's a natural division. Today we're learning Shir Tes Zayin, lesson 16. Right? And of course, that's you know, this Shir, this lesson is my own creation. I decided where it started and where it stopped, and the kids know that. But I've given them a unit. I've given them an amount that we're going to cover, and I cut it out for them, visually. Very often, a discussion of Gemara is going to assume some prior knowledge that not every elementary school age kid has. And therefore, it's very important that that information be given before you start the Gemara. And that goes back to the fact that, like I said, multitasking has been found to be a myth. So when you're supplying that information midstream, and then expecting the kids at the same time to be able to incorporate it into the Shakla V'Tarya, you're telling them to do 2 things at once, which they can't do. You know, and this includes learning any freestanding parts first. If there's a brisa, depending on the nature of the brisa, before you learn the Gemara, teach the brisa. You know, there's a brisa in the Gemara. Say, Rabbi said we're going to learn a brisa, and teach the brisa the way you would teach a Mishnah. And don't be afraid to spend 20 minutes teaching a brisa. Or if it were 45 minutes, depending on... Teach it like you would teach it if it was a limud bifnei atzmo. This brisa is the limud. Teach the brisa. Then later, when you're going to bring it back and explain how this brisa is a raya, they're not going to get confused. Wait, what are we proving here? You know this brisa. You know we were discussing this in the Gemara. Do you see how this brisa proves that point? You're only doing one thing at once. First you know the brisa, then you incorporate the brisa. You're not multitasking. The same thing applies to psukim. You know, there's one piece of Gemara in Tfilas HaShachar where the Gemara has a brisa which quotes 6 psukim. Right? Because we learn out Shachris Mincha Marav, a pasuk by the office, 6 psukim all throughout Tanakh. Mamish, Torah Nebiim Ksuvim. Rabbi Sai, come and tell me them. Right now, you know what we're going to do? Rebbe is going to teach you 6 random psukim. What? Yeah, we're going to learn 6 random psukim. And I'll spend 2-3 minutes on each one. And I'll give them background. You know, there was a great Navi, Yirmiyahu Navi. And he lived at the end of Bayis Rishon. But, boys, I have to tell you, Yirmiyahu. By the way, you see the sign on the wall where we have the Svarim Tanakh? Yes, that Yirmiyahu Navi. The one who wrote Sefer Yirmiyahu. right? You see it in Nevi'im Achronim, second, right? Second one of them. Okay. He lived at the end of the first Beis HaMikdash. Oh, Rabbi's telling us a story. And he had a very difficult life. Hashem gave him the shlichus to tell the Bnei Yisrael to do tshuva, and they never listened to him. Rabbi said they even threw him in prison. Things got so bad that Hashem even told Yirmiyahu Hanavi to stop davening for Klal Yisrael. Can you imagine how bad that was? And let's learn this pasuk. Ve'ata, and you, and mamish like a pasuk, like we were learning a pasuk in Chumash. Al tispalo ba'ara amazeh. Right, and we read that pasuk that the Gemara quotes. And that was 3-4 minutes. Now, 3-4 minutes of Gemara lesson is very precious, but it's kedai, right? And then we do the same thing for the other 5 psukim the Gemara quotes. Those 6 psukim they already know. Now we're going to say, okay, Rabbi say, now we're going to have the raya, right? We had a machloikes where the tefillos came from. Now we're going to have the raya that the tefillos came from the avos. And here's a brisa that, right? And we learn through the brisa. And they have in their minds that the brisa is establishing a link between the avos and the tefillos. But what they're not doing at that moment is learning the taich of the psukim. Because that they already have. Right? One thing at a time. And it's a different world. Because if you didn't do that in advance, and you're trying to establish the link between the avos and the tefillos, while at the same time teaching this pasuk from Sefer Yirmiyahu, the kids are not know what's flying. Right? It's all over the place. What? So who established? Was it Yirmiyahu who davened? Was it Yitzchak who davened? Right? It just, and what's happening in the pasuk? One thing at a time, and it works. It works. The kids will grasp it. They'll know it. I just spent a half hour of my day teaching 6 psukim. Okay, but you gave them the skills. All Gemara, with the exception of Agarata, which is a different limud, can be divided into steps of logic. And this is the cornerstone of the way I teach Gemara in my class. This is the cornerstone of this beautiful book that you see. It's a very organized sequence of steps, of logical steps, right? It could be a memra, kushya, teretz, raya, d'chiyah, she'elah, tshuva, maskan. I just want to demonstrate the way some of these things would come out in a 5th grade class. So we saw this one on the board already. We'll start with it here. This is the beginning of a sugya. Now, I've heard from Rabbeim who teach this parak Tfilas HaShachar, I skip the sugya of ad va'ad bichlal. It's too hard. The kids don't get it. I skip it. I have to say that, and it's not just the thing you say, but it's my favorite sugya the whole year. The kids love it. It's so gishmak. So, all right, 5th graders. Rabbi Sai, we're starting a new sugya. This may or may not be. You guys are going to tell me. You may find this to be the most gishmaka sugya we've done yet. That'll be up to you to decide. Me? I'll tell you my opinion afterwards. You're going to tell me if this is the most gishmaka sugya we've had yet. In a week from now, I'm going to ask you. Okay? Now, you notice, we start off right away. You remember, before that word Rabbi, at the end of Shir Tezvav, there was 2 dots. Yeah? Yeah? And you see right here 2 more dots. So you have Rabbi, Yehuda, Omer. 6 words. Rabbi say, why are there 6 words that have 2 dots before it and 2 dots after it? No? Anybody? Binyamin? It's a memra, that's true. But not every memra has 2 dots before and 2 dots after. Why do we have 2 dots before and 2 dots after? Oh, gewaldig! We're going on to the next piece of the Mishnah. The piece of the Mishnah we were discussing till now. We have finished discussing. That sugya is in our pocket. Now we're starting a new segment of the Mishnah. And Binyamin told us that it's going to be a memra for Shteitzach because it's a piece of the Mishnah. Okay. So we already know step 1. We don't know what step 1 says. We didn't read it yet. But we know what kind of step it is. We know where it comes from. Let's go. Let's read step number 1. Rabbi, Yehuda, okay, good. Step 1. Are we clear? Good? Everybody has it? Givaldic. Step 2. Raise your hand if you can tell me. I'm not reading it for you guys. Raise your hand if you can tell me what type of step is step number 2. Right? Oh, Shloimi. It's a she'ela. A she'ela? Are you sure? Yeah. Really sure? Yeah, good. How do you know it's a she'ela? Because it says, Ibaya lahu. Oh, you mean, and we had Ibaya lahu an moment ago. You remember that Ibaya lahu means it was a, 2 vocabulary words also. It was a she'ela to them. Beautiful. You're absolutely right. Step 2 is a she'ela. Now here's the $1 million questions. And no, boys, you don't really get $1 million. Here's the $1 million question. Where does step 2 end? Where does step 2 end? Rabbi, no. By bichlal. Okay, how do you know? Because right after that it says Toshma. And Toshma means that's already the raya. Gewaldig. Here's a Rabbi dollar. Gewaldig. Toshma is always the beginning of a raya. That means here's the end of the she'ela. Did we learn step 2 yet? No. But do you guys know exactly where it starts and stops? Yeah. Right. And by the way, I've spent like 3 minutes on this and I haven't taught anything yet. Yeah, right? But is it kedai? Right? Do I have are the kids engaged right now? Are they getting skills? Are they picking up the framework and the structure of the Gemara that they're going to always remember? Of course, of course. Now I want you to look at one other thing. If you had to break this she'ela in half, where would you do it? What word breaks it in half? Oy. You got it. Oh, oy. What does that mean? Everybody? Or. So we already now know the Gemara is asking a she'ela. We haven't learned this yet. We're asking a she'ela. Is it these 3 words? Or is it these 4 words? You already see the whole structure here. We don't know what those words mean yet. But you know exactly what's happening. And the secret is, the 50 other times they're going to have it, they also know what's happening. I didn't just teach them this, right? I taught them the next 50 times they're going to have it also. You know, the mashal I give is, you teach someone to bake a cherry pie. The next day they have to bake a blueberry pie. If they have no idea what to do, you didn't teach them how to bake a cherry pie very effectively. If you taught them how to bake the cherry pie effectively, and then they're told to bake a blueberry pie, they'll be able to just make the substitution. Right? And that's what's going on here. This structure, they're going to have it 50 times. So did I spend 15 minutes of class without even starting the Gemara yet? Of course I did. Was it Kedai? Of course it was. Now, if there's a kid who is not focused when we're doing that, it's not because he's weak. Because nothing I did here is complex. Even the strong kids, the chiddush is that the strong kids are pulled in. And they're pulled in because it's so engaging. And of course there has to be enthusiasm. You have to have your kishkas into it. But it's structure, it's logic. What's going to happen next? But nothing here happened. If a kid is not engaged here, it's not an ability problem. There might be an emotional issue going on. There might, there's other things at play. I'm not in a rush. If I was in a rush, you know what I would say? I would say, Rabbi Sai, we're starting a new sugya. Okay, Ibaya lahu. The Gemara has a right. The Gemara has a shaila, right? Ad bichlal. Okay, now let me tell you what ad bichlal is and what ad bichlal. And I would explain. I might give a very good hesber, but it's just part of this big mass. I'm not pointing out the structure. They're not getting skills for the future, and there's going to be much less motivation, much less engagement because what? It's just endless. There's no rhyme or reason for what's coming, right? Weiter and Shas. Okay, I don't want to go weiter and Shas. I want to know what we're doing. Boys, we're starting Shirchov tests. I am not going to tell you what step we're up to. You're going to tell me what kind of step this is. Let's see who can figure it out. Rabbi Yirmiyah. Okay, that's easy enough to teach. And Rabbi Yirmiyah. Heichi, vocabulary word. How? Ovid, vocabulary word. He did. Hachi, vocabulary word. Like this. Okay, let's teach it together. Rabbi Yirmiyah. Heichi, Ovid, Hachi. How did he do this? Rabbi Sai. What type of step is this? Little wait time. 3 hands shoot up right away. We're not calling anyone. Give another 5, 6 seconds. Let it sink in. By this time, 14 hands are up. It's a kushya. It's a kushya. Why do you say so? Now here, there's no telltale keyword. It didn't say meisvei. It didn't say one of those words that always means a kushya. How do you know it's a kushya? Because it's saying, how did he do this? That means we're saying there's a problem with what he did. Right? This is logic already working. Now it's not a rote skill. Now you got to start thinking. But they could do it. It's so clear. And the kids are loving every minute of it. No one's asking to go out to the bathroom. It's so enjoyable. It's so exciting. It's geschmack. Everyone likes having their mind stimulated in the right way. Right? It's engaging. It's alive. And I can get it. I can succeed at it. It makes sense. Everything fits in just right. About a month and a half before we start Gemara, we, right? And this is, I don't know if you see the picture. These are tear-off numbers, right? 44 days, and every day I forget to rip off the number. And the whole davening, And I know what he wants. After davening, Rabbi, what? Of course I, play it out. What? You didn't take down the number. You're right. And with a flourish, 43 days till we start Gemara. And it's just something, that's just an outside thing. It just makes it exciting. It makes it, by the time the day gets there, they're bursting. We're in the teens, only 19 days left, right? It's so geschmack.